Hare Right.
Thank you for what you did.
Good evening, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you for being here tonight. Welcome. We are celebrating 60 years of the existence of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. 60 years. So in the 60s, it was a tumultuous time. It was a time of so-called freedom for the youth, right? Let it all hang out. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. It was a tumultuous time politically. There was a counterculture going on. The young people in the 60s had sort of had it with the establishment, with their parents' generation, the mundane, boring 1950s. And they wanted something new, something better, something fresh, and they tried everything under the sun. And until an elderly man from India came and talked about principles that were sort of antithetical to the sex and drugs and rock and roll that they were experimenting with, did they find something that resonated with them? Some kind of truth. So much so that they gave their lives to this man, Srila Prabhupada. And we're all here now reaping the benefits of the wisdom and the toil that they all went through. So we're here tonight and every night this week expressing our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada and his disciples for having opened up an avenue of new life for all of us. A kind of life that we never would have really imagined for ourselves. So thank you for celebrating that. We have two very, yes, Hare Krishna. We have two very distinguished guest speakers today. And before we get to the actual talk, a couple things are going to happen. I'd like to invite His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj up right now to garland Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. And
Maybe I'll go there when we need it. I'll just sit there.
And Maharaj, I'd like to offer you Prabhupada's mercy.
Haribol!
Master Prabhu, would you go in Ramesvara dasa?
Got enough. Where is this from?
This is, you're from here?
Center,
Oh, from Bhakti Center?
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada garland at Bhakti Center.
Oh, okay. So it's already offered.
It's offered.
Thank
Of course, we would only give you prashad.
Thank you.
Jayadvaita Prabhu.
Thank you.
Right? So now we're going to move into one of my favorite parts. This is, we're going to do a kirtan, and it's a 10.5-minute kirtan, and it's led by Srila Prabhupada. This kirtan was recorded in this room in 1966.
Haribol!
Haribol indeed. Now this was recorded so early on that Prabhupada, or Swamiji at that time, his disciples and students did not yet even know the Panchatattva mantra. Welcome to His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. In the corner.
Step over your bag.
Prabhupada ki jai.
The seat for you in the corner,
Your
Maharaj.
son ki jai. Haribol. What's your
For those who may not know, when we offer a garland to Srila Prabhupada or a deity of Radha, Krishna, it carries their mercy. It carries their mercy because they're so spiritually potent. So when we give that garland to someone else, that person is the recipient of that mercy, which is why it's a distinguished honor to be able to receive a garland that has been offered. It's not just a garland that was made, here's some flowers. No, it's infused with spirituality. So getting back to this kirtan that we're about to listen to, the students don't yet know the Panchatattva mantra, so Prabhupada will chant that himself 3 times and then launch into the Maha Mantra, and we can do the regular call and response at that point. Thank you.
Rama नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप धाम की जय। समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Pramanande Hari.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Our first speaker this evening is His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj. Yes, who has quite an extensive body of devotional work to his credit. I'm just going to go over a couple things here. He was initiated in 1968 in this very place, 22nd Avenue, when he was 18 years old. He served as editor for nearly all of Srila Prabhupada's books that were published during Prabhupada's lifetime, and has been involved with nearly every aspect of publishing them. He co-founded the VIHE, Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education, in 1987, and has served as director of Prabhupada's publishing house, the BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. He was the editor-in-chief for Back to Godhead magazine for several years, and for a decade was the director of the Bhaktivedanta Archives, the official repository for historical records of Srila Prabhupada's life and work. He is the author of several books and travels extensively teaching us what Srila Prabhupada has taught him. Please welcome His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami.
Thank you, Yadanath Prabhu, and thank you all. And welcome to Jadharani Devi. You didn't interrupt, we didn't start.
While we're on this short break here, I encourage everybody to please move up as people are coming in the back. You can make a little more room for them. Thank you very much.
I can move back a little too.
You're fine, Maharaj. If need be, we'll let you know.
Hare Krishna.
Reminds me like the devotees please move up. I'm a devotee too. Prabhupada is here. Thank you.
To start, if you would please check your cell phone and see whether it's in silent mode. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Kuruna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Ori Priye Vanchako Patarubhyascha Kripa Sindhopyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtadede Shatarane. My sense is that if this were higher, we'd probably be better off. Am I right? How's the volume and all of that?
Volume sounds good here.
Volume sounds good there. It's back in... Wow, okay. Hare Krishna. Offering Srila Prabhupada this gardenia garland, I was reminded of something. I sometimes wrote different articles for Back to Godhead. I wrote, one was, who was this girl with Krishna, and several others. And one time Srila Prabhupada came here to New York. By then we were at Henry Street. And we all, so many devotees, big crowd, went off to Kennedy Airport to receive him. If I'm not conflating two different instances, I think I am, actually. So we went to Prabhupada to receive him at Kennedy Airport. And we were all doing kirtan. We had our kartals and mridangas, and we used to bring flowers and water to sprinkle around and unbroken grains and yogurt and all sorts of auspicious things. Yeah, we were a airport manager's nightmare. So the time is approaching when Prabhupada's plane is supposed to land, and so we all rev up the kirtan, and everyone's absorbed in the kirtan, and then somehow the word spread among the temple managers, senior devotees, Gopijana Vallabha Prabhu, our president, that Prabhupada's name was not on the flight manifest. In those days, you could find out who was on the flight, and Prabhupada's name wasn't there, which meant that we'd pack up all our stuff and go back to Henry Street. And just then, Prabhupada appeared. And surrounded by so many devotees. And Gopijana Vallabha Prabhu had given me a big gardenia garland to offer to Srila Prabhupada. Almost as big as Prabhupada. And he gave it to me to offer to Srila Prabhupada. So I put it around Prabhupada's neck, and Prabhupada said, I read your article. And I didn't know what he was talking about. I had no idea which article, what he might have read. was just frozen. And Prabhupada said, who is this girl with Krishna? He said it was very nice. Hare Krishna. It's still online, and I guess it's still very nice. Another thing I was reminded about by the kirtan we heard is that, at least I noticed, and probably all the devotees noticed, that every time Srila Prabhupada chanted the Hare Krishna mantra, it was different. Each time he chanted, the sound vibration was unique. And you can hear Prabhupada chanting with deep devotion, with deep absorption. And so much of our 60-year-old Krishna consciousness movement is, all of it you can say, is due to that transcendental sound vibration, Prabhupada chanting with such depth and sincerity and realization. And yes, everything from that. He would speak here at 2nd Avenue, and whatever was going on, we would listen and we would hear something. And whatever doubts and whatever stray thoughts were there would be kind of sealed by the kirtan that ended, that occurred after Prabhupada's talk. Srila Jiva Goswami says that in this age, everything we do should be preceded and followed by Hari Kirtan. And that was Prabhupada's policy. He wouldn't just speak, he would chant Hare Krishna, then speak, and then again chant Hare Krishna. At one point, he wanted to have a place at the United Nations. Not too long after I came here at 2nd Avenue. And he engaged one, or he or Brahmananda engaged Purushottam, one of my godbrothers, to try to secure that place, an office in the UN. So there was Purushottam was a pretty competent person, a lot of energy was put into it, and progress was made. But then it was conveyed to Srila Prabhupada that he wouldn't be able to have kirtan there. And Prabhupada just dropped the whole thing. Just dropped it. No interest. So that sound vibration we used to listen to here, as there's a record player, an ancient record player here, there was during Srila Prabhupada's time. And we would just play it and play it and play it and play it. And then we would turn it over and just play it and play it and play it. There was only that one record. And we would play it and always be hearing that vibration. It's a little sad for me these days to hear Prabhupada's kirtan reduced to a 90-second digital loop in which the same few mantras are repeated again and again and again without that fullness that we heard when Prabhupada actually chanted, or even when the entire kirtan recording is played. Seems to be used as a kind of a transcendental air purifier with a tinny sound and a short loop. It's not the same. Along the same lines, there are japa tapes so that we can chant our japa with Srila Prabhupada. Actually, japa is meant for our own, to hear ourselves chanting. And was it Yadabar Prabhu? You heard from Aditya, right? Our god sister Aditya Dasi. This tape was not something that we started with when I joined, but at some point someone made a recording of Prabhupada chanting, I suppose, at an initiation ceremony. And then it rapidly spread. And it became something, sort of a staple that in many temples they would play it during the time for japa. And Aditya Devi, you can correct me if I get the story wrong, said to Srila Prabhupada, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, it's so nice. Now we can chant japa while listening to you chant." And Prabhupada said, "Oh, that is not good." Prabhupada said, "You should hear yourself chant." Hare Krishna. A lot of what Srila Prabhupada did was to, well, on the one side, pound into us what he wanted us to know, what he wanted us to do, and what he wanted us to know. He drummed into our heads, and again, repeated the same themes, the same instructions, the same orders, again and again and again. That's one side. And on the other side, don't invent anything. Don't change anything. Don't concoct anything. Who has taught you to do this? What is this rascaldom? That was the other side. Sakaline hamata yoga nashtaparantapa in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says this science was coming down from Vibhishan to Manu to Ikshaku to the saintly kings. Now I'm again speaking it to you. That's called parampara. From one acharya, one teacher, to the next, to the next, to the next. And for that to work, the requirement is that we don't change anything. That we keep it as it is, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. So Krishna says it was coming down, but over a long period of time, it was lost. And that's how it's lost. Another change, another change. Prabhupada wrote to one of our leaders who's involved with what was it called? Anyway, it was like sort of the precursor to the Radha Damodar. It was the Radha Damodar party. Road show, yes, traveling road show with a rock opera, a kirtan opera, and this and that. And Prabhupada shut it down after some. At first he gave it a bit of a favorable reception, and then later he shut it down. And he wrote, another change, every day another change. Stop all this nonsense. Just chant Hare Krishna. The letters there in the database. Don't change things. That instruction he gave us, we heard from Chaturani Mata yesterday, that the rasa dance picture was very much appreciated, but then it was changed. And we might hear from Ramesvara Prabhu how Prabhupada practically blasted him out of the room on that account. So it's a great responsibility that's given to us. And sometimes when I'm asked what most impressed me about Srila Prabhupada, this is certainly comes to mind, his sense of duty. He said here one time in 26 Second Avenue, he just arrived from the West Coast. He said that the Honolulu Advertiser, the local paper, had published an article that the Swami is a small man, but he has got a very big message. And Prabhupada liked that. Prabhupada came out of a sense of duty to his spiritual master. And he was entrusted with a message, and he was going to attempt to deliver that message. As he said, without adding anything, without subtracting anything, without changing anything. And they might like it or not like it. That was secondary. But he was not going to compromise. Not going to compromise. He said, I thought when I would come and they would say the 4 rules, they would say, now you go home. He said, but I wasn't going to change it. I wasn't going to. Yes, Prabhupada didn't pussyfoot. Now we sort of get the sense that we have to be very careful when we speak Krishna consciousness. Nobody should be offended. You know, none of those, what is it, L, B, X, Y, Z, you know, none of those people should be put off. Everything has to be just so carefully said. Prabhupada, no. And here he is in the middle of hippiedom. You know, replace all those people who are walking around outside reasonably dressed with crazy people with bell bottoms and flowers in their hair and Ukrainian, what are those ribbons and things and pupils this big and you know just and coming from the bath once a week club and Prabhupada is saying no gambling, no intoxicants, no meat eating, no illicit sex. Straight out. Straight out. The most unpopular message you could possibly deliver in this corner of New York City. Maybe if you said no illicit sex, you know, on the someplace uptown, it might be appreciated even if people didn't follow it. But here it was like you're violating our religion. You know, this is what we do. And Prabhupada just outright was clear about it. As mentioned yesterday, this was the stop the war in Vietnam time. Stop the war in Vietnam. And Prabhupada had no problem with war. Krishna is urging Arjuna to fight. Prabhupada didn't turn it into a metaphor, a symbol, an allegory. There's a section of men who are required for fighting. When Tosan Krishna Prabhu, our godbrother here, was received a notice from the draft board. He applied for exemption, and Prabhupada wrote a letter to the draft board explaining why he shouldn't be drafted. And it had nothing to do with our being against war, nothing to do with being against killing. This boy is being trained as a Brahmin, and therefore he's unsuitable for military service. You know, told it like it was. There are 4 classes of men. He's being trained as first-class man, being trained for divinity and intellect and so on. And therefore, he's unsuitable for this. And he got the draft exemption. First one in ISKCON. And we celebrated Srila Prabhupada for not compromising. There were so many who came and spoke what they thought we wanted to hear. make it easy, make it loose. And Prabhupada was just the opposite. It was uncompromising. Now, that's not to say that when dealing with individuals, he didn't consider how best to help each person. But the policy was clear. These are our rules. These are our rules. Tacked them onto the door. And didn't make them fuzzy. Loud and clear. So I was talking with Vasudev earlier today, and we were discussing this point that Srila Prabhupada sometimes is made into like an icon, you know, a almost legendary figure from previous days, and that legendary figure was accepted everyone as they were, and accepted us all as we were, and was very loving and very kind. And there's some truth to that. But the other side was, you are nonsense. You are a rascal. You are a fool. You'll be intelligent in 300 years. Who has told you to do this? Why are you doing this? That was also Srila Prabhupada. Both sides. We heard yesterday, I think, soft like a, what was it the day before? Hard like a thunderbolt. I think Vamandev Prabhu mentioned that. Hard like a thunderbolt, soft like a rose. Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada also. Following. That reminded me, I'm following the parampara here of, this reminds me of something, that reminds me of something. There was a big initiation ceremony at 61 2nd Avenue. And Prabhupada still had his apartment here, but we'd moved the temple there. And there was a big celebration, and Prabhupada initiated so many people. There was a photo, one of the on-chanting pamphlets, one edition of it, had a picture of all the devotees, or many devotees, surrounding Srila Prabhupada as he walked to back here. And you can see they're just jumping and dancing and floating with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada is walking like this, as usual. And he didn't say anything. And then I heard him say, we have increased the disciplic succession from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's all he said. That's what he came to do. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give a message, and Srila Prabhupada received the charge of distributing that message and increasing the Sankirtan movement. So that sense, I came to do something. I had some duty given to me by my Guru Maharaj, and I've tried to do that. And so he said, we have increased the disciplic succession from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And disciplic succession, disciples means that it doesn't end ever. Actually, it doesn't end. It's not supposed to. Evam brahma praptam. So from guru to disciple, to disciple, to disciple, to disciple. Another aspect of the philosophy that's not supposed to be changed. We can't change, modify, rejigger the teachings to fit some social or managerial agenda. We cannot change the teachings to fit some social or economic or managerial agenda. The teachings are what they are, and we cannot change them to satisfy what Srila Prabhupada called the rascal public. If people accept it, we're so grateful and happy. And if they don't accept it, someone else will. But our duty is to present it as it is. And there was some newspaper reporter here in New York with Prabhupada, one of Prabhupada's arrivals, and he was asking Prabhupada questions, a little submissively, if I recall. And Prabhupada told him at one point that we have come to speak the truth, and if you are honest, you will accept it. That was another feature. I'll move to another place. I was with in Detroit one time when Srila Prabhupada visited there. And a newspaper reporter from a major newspaper came to interview him, a young woman. And she asked the usual dumb questions. You know, the essential thing to know is why you wear that paint on your forehead. But what most impressed me was that Prabhupada didn't seem to care at all that she was a journalist, that she was from a major American newspaper. He just spoke to her about Krishna. That Krishna sent this person, and now my duty is to speak to her about Krishna. I think that was the same lady, if I remember, who asked the usual question, why do you shave your head? And Prabhupada responded by asking her, why do you shave your legs? Prabhupada said, better to have warm legs and a cool brain. My early engagement here, just for the record, I joined in 1968, 2 months before Srila Prabhupada returned from India, where he'd gone to recover from his heart attack. And that's when Vamandev Prabhu and I were initiated here at 26 2nd Avenue. So I met Prabhupada. You know, how did you meet Prabhupada? By joining ISKCON. That's how I met him. So my early engagement, one of my early engagements was typing. I retyped the whole Bhagavad Gita as it is. I was typing for Back to Godhead. There was an office on 12th or 14th Street around there. Ray Rama had an office there, and I would go and type. Then later I graduated to editorial work. Prabhupada said that the duty of the editor was to be scrutinizing. The main instruction that, well, he gave various instructions. One thing he gave as an instruction, this was to the editors of Back to Godhead, 1 year in Boston. 1 year Prabhupada visited Boston when the ISKCON press was there. And he had Hayagriva and Satsvarupa Maharaj and Pradumna came, Kirtanananda came, I was there. The first editorial meeting for Back to Godhead. And it was winter. Prabhupada had a house. Do you remember where that was? Way kind of far away. You went driving through the snow for the long distance. Prabhupada was staying in this warm little house. And Prabhupada showed us how to have a meeting. He began by kirtan. And then he spoke about the principles of Back to Godhead. I think it may have been recorded and may be in the database, I'm not sure. But he said that the editors have to know the siddhantas. Siddhanta means the conclusions, the teachings found in Shastra. The editors have to know the siddhantas. He said nothing contrary to Shastra can be printed in the Back to Godhead. He said in the future it will be looked to like scripture. He says nothing non-conclusive, contrary to the siddhantas, can be published in the Back to Godhead. Then he said there were 3 stages of approach. First thing is to establish what is our relationship with Krishna. That we're not this body, that we're spiritual beings, that we're part and parcel of Krishna, that we're servants of Krishna. This is the first stage. Yeah. Can we make some space so that newcomers can move forward? Whether or not they're newcomers, but they've newly come. Yeah. Thank you. Then the second stage, someone takes up these practices and they approach Swamiji, can you initiate me? Can you train me? So then the second stage, how to be practically engaged in Krishna's service, how to follow the principles of devotional service. This is the second stage. And the third stage is Paramhansa stage. Prabhupada said, always absorbed in thinking of Krishna. Paramhansa stage. So, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayoja, 3 stages. First thing to establish the relationship, then to learn how to act in that relationship, and then in the mature stage there's love. So he said this Back to Godhead is meant for the first 2 stages. To awaken people and to train people. The rasa dance and other such things, this is not for Back to Godhead. But how to awaken people, how to train people. And as Prabhupada was discussing this and other topics, one other topic, Pradumna asked if we could publish Brahma Samhita in Back to Godhead. We had that book, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's edition. And Prabhupada said yes. He said, but you should publish it in small installments. He said, it will puzzle their brains. And from that, Prabhupada began speaking about the time when he'd first met his spiritual master, the early days when he was coming. He said, he said, my Guru Maharaj used to speak from the highest elevated platform. And when he said that, I practically felt like the highest elevated platform was somehow present in that room. Could envision a little bit. Anyway, it was still the 1960s. But it was substantial. Prabhupada spoke this thing that my Guru Maharaj used to speak from the highest elevated platform. He said even when he would speak in Bengali, he said, I could not understand. But I would go on hearing. He said that was my policy, or whatever you would call it. He said that, and he said my Guru Maharaj noted it, that this boy is enthusiastic to hear. And because I was enthusiastic about hearing, Shravana, now I'm enthusiastic about speaking or preaching, kirtana. And Prabhupada said that. I need a direction from you. I don't know how long I should speak.
I think we're just about there.
You're just about there. You're done.
Not enough, I'm not in a rush. Maharaj was here.
Should I tell one?
Yes.
I've told before, but maybe I'll tell it again. This was again when we had 61 Second Avenue. One elderly gentleman came to the temple. Temple was one flight up. And there was a kind of a store as you entered, and served as a reception area and a store. And this gentleman came and he had a letter from Srila Prabhupada that when I'm in New York, then you can come see me. So, all right. He'd come at the right time. Prabhupada was here. And Brahmananda sent me with the gentleman to escort the gentleman to Srila Prabhupada's apartment. He'd been associated with like Vedanta Society uptown and that sort of thing. And so I brought the man to meet Srila Prabhupada. He was extremely respectful toward Srila Prabhupada. And he said that, Swamiji, I like your teachings very much, but one thing I don't understand, that one of your students told me that you'd said that Swami such and such is a rascal. And I always thought that he was a very holy man. And I don't understand why you would say that. Prabhupada said, who has said this? If he has said that I have called him rascal, and I have not said, then he is rascal. So now the man is quite pleased. And while Prabhupada's sitting there, he reaches for a small blue hardbound book from his bookshelf. And it's a translation of and commentary on Bhagavad Gita. And he shows it to the man. Do you know this? Are you familiar with this? And Dr. Such and Such. Oh, yes. Again, coming from that Advaita side. Oneness. So now he's still more happy. So Prabhupada opened the book to one verse, in the 9th chapter. And Manmana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru. So he had the man, so read. So the man read that always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage to me. Prabhupada said, yes, he is a very good scholar. Now the purport, what does he say? Man began reading. It is not to Krishna that we have to offer our respects, but to the unborn, beginningless something or other that speaks through Krishna. Prabhupada said, just see. Therefore I say, they are all rascal. And then Prabhupada quoted another verse, Namam duskrita namuta prapadyante naradama maya pratagyana asura bhavamashita. That those who refuse to surrender to me are miscreants, they're fools, asses, they're the lowest of mankind, their knowledge has been stolen by illusion, they have the demonic nature. And he unpacked each word with some length. They're asses, they're fools, they're the lowest of men. Their knowledge has been stolen by illusion, they're demonic. Prabhupada said, it is not my saying, it's Krishna's saying. What can I do? Oh, this was Prabhupada's mission. He'd received the message and he gave it to us as it is. The philosophy, the chanting, the everything. And now it's in our hands. My God brothers and God sisters all received it from Srila Prabhupada. And those who come next are receiving it from us. There was one girl in Barbados or someplace like that. She heard the chanting and she became attracted and she started preaching down there. And she asked Srila Prabhupada, whether it would, because you have to be initiated. She wasn't initiated. Would it have potency? Prabhupada said, you have heard the chanting from my disciples and they have heard it from me, and therefore it will be effective. So this is the method, evam parampara praptam, from one generation to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next generation. In this way, if we keep it intact, then it will retain the potency and go on and on and on. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, as we heard yesterday, emphasized so much the importance of the press, and therefore Jadharani has published a book, and I've also published a book, Srila Prabhupada's Kirtan Standards, which speaks to what you would think it speaks to. And there are copies that we'll have for you in the back. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. That's a good point. We're not going to do that right now, but it's a very good point. Just want to mention, Maharaj mentioned the book. I do recommend it. It's really illuminating to just hear everything that Prabhupada has said about kirtan and the way it should be performed. And how it is, like anything else, sometimes things just evolve. Sometimes you don't even mean to evolve them, but this leads to something small, which leads to something small. Before you know it, there's a big gap, and he points those things out very lucidly. So I do recommend that book. Thank you. Okay. So our next speaker is Ramesvara Prabhu. Ramesvara Prabhu was initiated in 1971, and like Maharaj, he's done so much for the sustenance and expansion of Prabhupada's movement that we'd be here all night just for introductions. So I'm going to truncate that as well and just say that he was a very, very, very important component in helping Srila Prabhupada manage his society and a very close confidant of Srila Prabhupada's. He was a member of the GBC and was appointed by Srila Prabhupada to be a lifetime trustee of the BBT, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, which printed millions of books under his leadership. Forgive me, Prabhu, but Srila Prabhupada once remarked to someone about his disciples, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, "None of you has any intelligence except for Ramesvara. He has got some intelligence." Please welcome Ramesvara Prabhu.
I'm not going to correct you on that quote, but you didn't say it correctly.
I did say I paraphrased. Yeah, what did he say?
There are some things we're not going to talk about today. Because you have to understand the setting, the context, where we all were when he, that kind of thing. So anyway, sorry, I have to excuse you. Thank you. Walking on these bouncy cushions without a cane is very dangerous because they bounce. Tell me exactly how much time and I will stop at exactly that time. No, seriously.
Yeah, about 8:15.
Wait a minute, it's now 7:30.
Yeah,
So you want me to go till when?
8:15.
Oh, 8:15, okay, I can do that. Well, thank you. Normally I would offer my obeisances from this side. I'm sorry to disturb you. Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasinubhyevcha paditanan pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasa Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. 26 Second Avenue, the Holy Dham ki jai. Hare Krishna. And this is a holy, holy Dham. I want me to speak into this. Yeah. Okay.
We're going online. Prabhu.
Oh, all right. I would just like to say something about my personal understanding of Srila Prabhupada. It's a very personal understanding. I'm not quoting from anything right now. From the moment I contacted Prabhupada's disciples as a teenager and moved into this temple in Portland that had just been opened as a teenager. Similar age, 18, 19. What was your age? 18. So our generation came as teenagers, many of us. But my understanding of Srila Prabhupada from the beginning was that he was not a person from this material world. He was a soul that had descended by the direct order of Krishna and Sri Gauranga, Sri Panchatattva, to come into this world with a mission. It was not something like sadhana siddhi. My understanding from the moment I met devotees is Prabhupada is nitya siddhi. So eternally with Krishna, eternally with Gauranga. And someone may say, well, then how could he have run a pharmacy or a business or been married? Well, that's like asking, how could the 6 Goswamis work for the Islamic government? You can't judge that as who they are, and therefore they were just gradually becoming elevated. No, it was just when they chose to reveal themselves. For those who have a Christian background, Jesus acted like a carpenter for so many years, and at a certain point in time, he chose how and when to reveal himself, his true self. I've always thought of Srila Prabhupada in that way. So I just wanted to say that as a preface. Oh, I wanted to read a short purport that Srila Prabhupada wrote. This is from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 13. Quote. Should I say the Bengali? Oh, why not? I don't speak Bengali. Nagare, nagare, brahme kirtan kariya. Basalya tribhuvana prema bhakti diya. The Sankirtan movement went on from one part of the town to another as the Lord wandered everywhere performing kirtan. In this way, he inundated the whole world by distributing love of Godhead. Now, Prabhupada's purport. One may raise the question, how all 3 worlds became inundated with love of Krishna since Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed kirtan only in the Navadvip area. The answer is that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. The entire cosmic manifestation results from the Lord's first setting it in motion. Similarly, since the Sankirtan movement was first set in motion 500 years ago by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire that it spread all over the universe, the Krishna consciousness movement, in continuity of that same motion, is now spreading all over this world. And in this way, it will gradually spread all over this universe. Now, devotees don't often quote this because they can't imagine how is this ISKCON movement going to be on other planets. But here is a quote from Prabhupada's purport explaining that this motion is going to gradually spread all over this earth, and then beyond that, all over the different planets in the whole universe. Now, this is a 10,000-year mission. This is not something that happens next week. But Prabhupada is describing that is what's going to happen. With the spread of Krishna consciousness movement, everyone, now this is following him saying this is going to be throughout the whole universe on every planet. With the spread of the Krishna consciousness movement, everyone will merge in an ocean of love of Krishna. So, this actually, in part, is my understanding of Srila Prabhupada. He was sent here to take this motion of the Sankirtan movement, the spiritual energy and motion that was set by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and prepare what is needed for it to spread to every town and village and city and country and continent on earth, and then to spread to other planets. And Prabhupada came here for this to happen. That is his reason for his descent. And how to accomplish this? We've heard from our illustrious transcendental speakers how Srila Prabhupada introduced prasadam distribution and kirtan and japa. And yet, I always remember when Prabhupada said in some early lectures that the 6 Goswamis, you can't imagine them, that they only took rest for 1.5 hours a night at most. That's not human. We can't even imagine that. Except for those who were with Srila Prabhupada. And observed his lifestyle, at least what I observed, because they're from the class of the 60s, and I'm from the class of 1970. That's when I was brought to Prabhupada. But from that moment, what I observed was that Prabhupada never slept more than 2 hours a night. For all those years that I observed, 71, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, while everyone else was taking rest, he sacrificed taking rest. He rose way above any bodily necessity or mental necessity. And he used that time, that private quality time when no one was bothering him, to have his communications with Krishna and Lord Paramatma and write his books. And that someone could do that for 10 years, give up sleep for 10 years. If we just try to imagine us doing that, how many days could any of us give up sleep before we collapse, or if we're driving, get in an accident, or get lost if we're walking somewhere? We can't imagine every day giving up sleep for that many years. What could motivate someone other than he loves Krishna so much, he loves Sri Panchatattva so much, that they have filled him with their desire to save every soul that's asleep. And he actually has that running inside him constantly, day and night, that he is here to save every soul in the universe, starting with New York City and then gradually spreading throughout the earth and so on. So I want to share that as my understanding and observations about Srila Prabhupada. So in this regards, where he is predicting the future in that purport, this movement's going to spread to every planet in the whole universe. Srila Prabhupada very mercifully, excuse me, let me have some conversations with him about the future of our movement. He saw I was very eager to know about that. So at the end of 1976, I wrote a letter begging Srila Prabhupada, just once in my life, could I live with you for 30 days as your secretary and be with you day and night? And he said, yes, you come. So I was allowed, Prabhupada tolerated, and I was allowed to be his secretary starting in January of 77. So when you're traveling with Prabhupada and he's speaking to you, you're not just sitting there writing. That it's almost disrespectful that you wouldn't even be looking at him. He's engaging. He was engaging me in conversations. We're looking out the train windows, and he's making comments about the world and about India and about all kinds of things. And I kept it. This is an unpublished diary of things that Prabhupada said to me during those 30 days. And I'm going to need a lot of help to take these short notes and turn it into the story that really exists. But I just want to, before I read some of these, there's one specific quote that I highlighted for Jadharani. Just give me a moment to get to it. Sorry for this delay. We were talking about this phrase that Prabhupada introduced as how this movement is going to spread throughout the whole world and then eventually throughout the whole universe. And he coined this phrase, cultural conquest. Shortly after I absorbed that and I went back to Los Angeles, we created this amazing Rath Yatra festival with all kinds of exhibits. Prior to that, Rath Yatra was the procession, and when the procession arrived, there was the stage, there was the kirtan, there was the person speaking, if it was Prabhupada there personally, and in the back there were prasadam tables, and then there were book tables. And that was basically the setup for many years of our ISKCON Rath Yatras. They didn't have exhibits until Prabhupada coined this phrase, cultural conquest. And then we discussed it with all the artists in LA at the time they were all living there. And we started creating artwork for exhibits and booths and amazing presentations of Krishna consciousness artistically, culturally, aesthetically. And that has traveled all over the world since then. It's actually, what do they call it? The Festival of India? That truck that Madhu arrives in and sets up all those exhibits. That's where that came from. Prabhupada saying, this whole movement will spread by cultural conquest. So I'm still looking for that one quote that I just found it. All right, I'm going to have to paraphrase because later on I'll show John and Ronnie the exact quote. We were talking about art and cultural conquest, and Prabhupada was then talking about the perfection of the Bhagavad Gita, how amazing it is. And then he said, one day we will have a beautiful art painting for every single text of the Bhagavad Gita. Not just the 60 that we started with, but there will be hundreds and hundreds of paintings, one for each text. He was describing the art department of the future. And he gave that as one of their tasks. Okay, so as Prabhupada is able to see into the future, he's able to see the history of Krishna consciousness for 10,000 years. We can't see into the future. A year from now, we'd be speculating what we think might happen, both in the world and in our movement. But Prabhupada was able to experience and realize and speak about the future perfectly. So, in this regards, excuse me, one time he was explaining to me that as Kali Yuga progresses, the great economies of the nations of the world will begin to collapse. And when those collapse, so many people living in the cities, they will become starved and they will flee the cities which have collapsed economically and move into the country to farms just in order to survive and just in order to get food. And as Prabhupada's explaining this future event to me, I said, Srila Prabhupada, is this part of the Hare Krishna movement? He said, oh, yes. This is actually planned by the Lord for this to happen. And at that time, by the millions of embodied souls, they will be running to farms. And Prabhupada said, and we have to have such farms ready to take them all in. And I said, Srila Prabhupada, they're meat eaters. They're intoxicated. They believe in illicit sex and all kinds of horrible vices. He said, yes. And you want us to take them into ISKCON? Oh, yes, you must, he said. And do what? He said, you will engage them in the activities of the farm, in farming, growing crops, taking care of cows. You'll engage them, and by the association of the devotees, these sinful people will gradually become purified. He said, this is part of the future of the Hare Krishna movement, that this will happen. So I've spoken about this more than once on some tapes, maybe Yadavar tapes or Siddhanta tapes or something. So devotees sometimes come up to me and say, when is that going to happen? And I tell them my understanding. In hundreds and hundreds of years from now. We're not there yet. Some of the things that Prabhupada would speak about weren't going to happen in the first 500 years of ISKCON. There's a 10,000-year movement. Maybe in the first 1,000 years it'll happen, but it's not happening. I told them, as much as I would love it to happen, it's not happening in our life, short human life. So be patient and become a pure devotee, and Krishna will tell you if you're meant to go back to Godhead and love him there, or if you're meant to stay birth after birth, accepting Srila Prabhupada as your Lord and Master, birth after birth, as we sing every day in every temple. Some devotees are meant to stay here and continue spreading the Sankirtan movement. Most are going back to Godhead, but there's a few that will be staying here to bring about these amazing futures that Prabhupada talked about. So one day, this was in 1976, Tamal Krishna Maharaj and I were driving Srila Prabhupada to his morning walk. Usually the morning walks are at Venice Beach. But at this time, we drove him to this very nice park overlooking the ocean in Santa Monica. So as we're driving, and some of you have heard this story, but it's worth saying it again. As we were driving, I said, Srila Prabhupada, I just read this article in the New York Times or some newspaper in New York that there was this big happening, that's what they called it, events by the artist Andy Warhol and his group would be like sensationalist events, shocking events. That was his trait. He was known for that. So I said, Prabhupada, I'm reading this article about how all these famous people, celebrities, wealthy people were invited to one of his happening events. And Andy Warhol served them an amazing meal, a feast. Of course, it was meat, because he's a demon. But anyway, at the end of the meal, some of them began to ask Andy Warhol, what is that amazing meat that you serve to us? Now, I was telling Prabhupada this story expecting the most dramatic, unbelievable outrage from Prabhupada. So Andy Warhol answered by saying, what I did is purchase from abortion clinics aborted fetuses, and that is what we cooked and served to all of you. Now, when I read it and when I repeated it to Prabhupada, it was so disgusting I could barely even hardly repeat it. It was just unimaginable to me. And so Tamal and I are sitting there waiting for Prabhupada's reaction. So Prabhupada leans back in the back seat of the car and says, yes, they have not yet learned that human flesh is the tastiest of all the meats. Definitely not what I was expecting. So Tamal and I, our jaws dropped. We didn't know how do you respond to that? So I had a habit which Prabhupada tolerated, of blurting things out. So I said, Srila Prabhupada, it's amazing to me. You know everything. I am thinking, Prabhupada's never eaten meat. How could he possibly know the different tastes of different types of meat and flesh to make that statement that they have not yet learned? This is the tastiest. I mean, I said, Prabhupada, you know everything. And he kind of smiled a little. And I said, and Prabhupada, you put everything that you know in their books. Your books are so amazing. They contain knowledge from the past, the present, the future. Everything is in your books. And so Srila Prabhupada replied, yes. That is how I think as I choose each and every word. That my books will create a revolution in the misguided societies of human societies throughout the world. He says, I think like that as I select each and every word. And then he said, I'm not reading the quotes, but I'm just going from, it's so embedded in my head. And Prabhupada said, just like in Russia, this one book by Lenin, this Marxist book by Karl Marx, whatever that main book was, and look at the revolution it started. If such mundane rubbish book can create such an intense revolution, just imagine what my books will create. He was talking about revolutions and bringing down the two great demons of this age. And I have the exact quotes, but again, just paraphrasing. The two great demons of this age that he said his books are here to annihilate. First he said, my books are non-different from Krishna. When Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, he annihilated the demons. And my books are non-different from Krishna. And they are meant to annihilate the two great demons of this age. So we're all just hanging on every word. And Prabhupada said, the demon of godless government and the demon of godless science. I have an amazing quote from Srila Prabhupada about Back to Godhead articles. He said, I want Back to Godhead to defeat this godless science. I want articles defeating this, right in Back to Godhead. So, over the years, Back to Godhead has had different themes and moods. But for several years, the mood of Back to Godhead, which we asked Prabhupada if we could try it, he said is the most difficult type of writing, but you can try. And then when we went too far, he pulled the plug. But up until he pulled the plug, he said the most difficult type of writing, which I will allow you to try in Back to Godhead, is to comment on what's going on in the world. That is very difficult because you have to be fully Krishna conscious to be able to see what is going on in the world. And frankly, history by Srila Prabhupada is so different from the history of anyone's mind or thoughts or imagination even. One time I was sitting with Srila Prabhupada in the Dallas airport, and we were getting ready to fly to New York to present to the devotees in the Henry Street Temple the idea that, excuse me, Prabhupada said, we will go to New York together and ask the devotees if they would be willing to relocate to Los Angeles. We will ask what they think about that, and if they're willing to do it. And I have to understand, at this point in ISKCON, this is like 75, end of 74. I mean, everyone knew Prabhupada was like a divine personality from the spiritual world. And here he is humbly saying, let us go to New York and just ask the devotees if they would, what they think about this, and if they would even agree to do this. And of course, the devotees immediately, it was Prabhupada, they agreed to anything he would ask. So when they agreed, Srila Prabhupada said, thank you very much. Now, at the upcoming Mayapur festival, in March or April, whenever it was, we will then ask the GBC. If they approve, Prabhupada's the master of the universe, a spiritual master of the universe for 10,000 years, practically speaking. And he's humbly describing how he's going to ask his own disciples if they would agree to the ideas that are coming from him. Amazing. This is one of the amazing qualities of Srila Prabhupada. So anyway, he had asked me to join him in the Dallas airport and fly to New York to present this to the ISKCON Press devotees. So while we're sitting in that airport, Srila Prabhupada allows me to have these conversations. So I started asking him about the Vietnam War. I could not understand, with America's power and weaponry, how it could last for 10 years. I was truly unable to understand what happened. And Prabhupada said, and we're sitting in the airport, he's explaining this vision. His understanding of history is so different from anyone's. You'll never read this in any comment or book or article ever written by a non-devotee or anyone who's not fully realized. So Srila Prabhupada said, yes, the demons have observed, the asuras in the universe have observed that if they take birth on earth, because humans are so puny-minded and so weak, it will be so easy for them to get control of their governments, of their institutions, and so on, and make this a demonic world. He said the demons of the universe take birth here for that purpose. It's because humans are so puny. So this is a conversation in late 1974. And then he went on to say, these demons were a little surprised at the youth rebellion, at the rebellion of their own youth. And they were also a little surprised at the rebellion of people of a different race, African-American race, black people, black-skinned people. He said, and so they had this idea for this war. This is exactly what Prabhupada explained. They had this idea that we will send over to the jungles of Vietnam the hippies and the blacks so we can kill them, year after year after year and get them out of our hair, get them off our campuses, get them off the streets, their little commune, let's just kill them. And that's how Prabhupada said, that is how the Vietnam War lasted for 10 years. You will never hear that from any other person. But that was Prabhupada's explanation for what was behind sending so many people to die or be wounded and ruin their whole life by going to Vietnam. So somehow Srila Prabhupada liked having these conversations. He liked explaining this. He saw I was I had a great interest in history. So, so anyway, he explains this to me, and then he starts telling me as I'm jumping ahead to when I'm traveling with him in January of 1977. We're looking out the windows and going on our way to Kumbh Mela, the Maha Kumbh Mela that happens once every 124 years or something like that, 144 years, whatever 12 times 12 is, that many years. So, and that year, Indira Gandhi was bringing the entire national government to that Kumbh Mela. It was a big, big Kumbh Mela. So as we're going by train and we're looking out the windows, we're passing so many villages. And Srila Prabhupada and I are in this sleeping car together. I can't explain how he tolerated me, but there were two beds in that train car, and one was Srila Prabhupada's and one was mine. So we lived together, and he let me sleep in his room. It's unbelievable. So anyway, we're looking out the window and passing many, many villages. And so Srila Prabhupada says, just see, so illiterate. There are so many millions of people who are illiterate. So I had an assumption what was going to be coming next. But as usual, I was completely wrong about what Prabhupada was about to say next. So after he said, talking about this mass illiteracy, he said, this is Krishna's blessing on the people of India. And I'm scratching, how can they're illiterate? How can that be a blessing? And Srila Prabhupada said, so they don't have to hear the Darwin rubbish, the scientific bluffing. I wrote all these quotes down of what they were being spared from by being illiterate. Not at all what I was expecting when Prabhupada made the comment, look at all this mass illiteracy, how it's a blessing from Krishna. I have 5 minutes left? Oh, right, thank you. All right, what do I have a lot of stories, and it's for another day.
It's wonderful, it's amazing.
Let me just think of one more that you might like to hear. All right, this is a personal story, if I'm allowed to just share a personal story.
Please.
We're at the Kumbh Mela, and it's very cold and very windy. And Prabhupada was beginning to appear to be getting an illness that ultimately his body couldn't deal with. By the end of that year, he had left his body. But that began in that tent in Kumbh Mela. It was so cold. So my service every night, there was like 10 nights that we were at Kumbh Mela. My wonderful service was I had this big box of stick matches, and they had a gas pilot heater, and the wind was constantly blowing out the pilot light. So all night, first of all, when you're with Prabhupada, you don't feel the pangs of the material world. You're in his bubble, a spiritual bubble that is so amazing. You really do not feel things like hunger or tiredness or thirst. You're just so absorbed in Prabhupada. and trying to serve him and trying to be in a mood of love for him. So I'm sitting there all night, and every 5 minutes the wind would blow out that pilot light. And night after night, I'm relighting it. And Prabhupada had a chadar over his shoulders and is hunched over a little makeshift desk that we had created, and he's dictating his books. I don't know, this is amazing that I'm being allowed to watch every night Prabhupada translate and write his purports. I couldn't believe it. And I didn't want to disturb him. I wanted to just keep him warm and so on, but he was letting me watch. And I'm listening. He speaks some words, then he clicks the tape recorder or the dictaphone off. Then, after a pause, he clicks the dictaphone back on and continues. And I'm watching this back and forth, on and off, on and off. And I'm getting this understanding. This is just very personal, how I understood it. Prabhupada's talking to Krishna in his heart about selecting each and every word. And once that has been agreed upon, he clicks the dictaphone back on and speaks. And then he comes to a point where he wants to consult or discuss again with Krishna the words, and he clicks off. Now, from night after night after night, I am watching this. And that was my realization by watching this, that is what Prabhupada is doing. And this was confirmed once to me by Surabhi. Surabhi was the great architect in our movement who designed Krishna Balaram Mandir, and he designed the Juhu Beach Temple in, back then, Bombay. So when he came to visit Los Angeles on his last year before he disappeared, of course, he's giving the class in the temple, and he's looking at Rukmini and Dwarkadish, our presiding deities. He starts crying. And it took him some minutes to compose himself. And I don't understand. He's never seen these deities. He's never been here before. And now he's looking at them and crying. Wow. You know, and I need an explanation. So, but it wasn't like he was reading my mind. He knew everyone needed an explanation. So when he composed himself enough to speak, he said, one day when I was in the construction office at Juhu, and we're looking at the construction drawings and everything with Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada said to me that he had these beautiful plans for this gorgeous temple, you know, in the style that we now have at Juhu. And as Srila Prabhupada is on his Vyasasana, either having kirtan or giving a class or whatever, he's actually simultaneously presenting this to Rukmini and Dwarkadish, saying, this is what I'm going to build for you here. So Prabhupada tells that to Surabhi. And then Prabhupada says, and Lord Dwarkadish told me, no, I want this, but not here. I want it in Bombay. And Prabhupada said, no, this is our Western World headquarters. I want it here. And Surabhi is telling me that Prabhupada's telling him about this, like, spiritual argument that he's having with my deities. And finally, because Lord Dwarkadish, Rukmini and Dwarkadish would not give in an inch, Prabhupada just accepted it and said, okay, we'll build this in Bombay. All of this conversation with the deity is going on while Prabhupada's sitting on the Vyasasana, maybe having a kirtan or giving a class. None of us could even imagine that he's also simultaneously talking to Krishna like that. How could we even imagine that? But that is our Prabhupada, that he's with Krishna all the time. And what he does to teach us externally is just a mere glimpse of who he really is. So the reason I'm telling you this story is because this was my realization at watching Prabhupada click on, click on, click on, click on. He actually talks to Krishna. and his planning. And I have all these quotes about how carefully he's selecting each and every word so there would be a revolution. So at some point, towards the end of the 10 days, I was losing my mind because it looked externally to my tiny, puny mind and limited senses that Prabhupada was suffering. He's not well physically. And I couldn't get past that he's so above that. He doesn't feel pain the way any human feels pleasure or pain. But to my external eyes and mind, it looked like he was suffering. He was getting sick. And the last few days, I'm begging him, can we leave? I don't think this is good. I don't think this. And he said, no. There's millions of people that have come. I must be here. They think they come to bathe in the river. No, they come for the association of sadhu. I am here for that. So finally, I completely lost control of my emotions. And it's late at night, and I just broke down and started crying in front of Prabhupada, like a baby. Like when I first saw him at that first San Francisco Rath Yatra, it was the first time I saw Prabhupada, I broke down and cried like a baby. Some of us have had that amazing experience that Prabhupada has that effect on our hearts, that you just melt. So I'm crying, and Prabhupada's looking at me. I said, Prabhupada, I can't take it. You have to leave. It doesn't look healthy here. So, and Prabhupada tries one more time to explain to my dull head, no, I'm here because there are millions of people that have come. I said, Prabhupada, I promise you this. If we can get you out of here and take you to a proper place, a warm place, where you can translate without being disturbed by anything of Mother Nature or your body or anything, I promise you, you give us those books, we'll reach 10 times the people that come here. We will reach the whole world with your books. Just leave here and give us your books. And I promise millions of times more people than are here will get your books. And not just in 1 year, but forever. And I'm crying. I'm begging and crying. And so Prabhupada took great sympathy and compassion on this useless soul. I said, oh, because you're crying, all right, I'll agree. He had no intentions of leaving, but because I was I was an emotional wreck and crying literally, as intensely as I've ever cried over anything. He said, well, all right, if it bothers you that much, then we can leave. And from there, we went to Bhubaneswar. So I wanted to leave you with that story of Prabhupada's love for all of us. And our promise in reciprocation for everything he is sacrificing to write these books, we will sacrifice everything day and night to distribute them. And that is the perfect rasa between Srila Prabhupada and all the members of ISKCON. Men, women, first generation, fifth generation, that is our rasa with Prabhupada. He has sacrificed to give us these books, and we will sacrifice back to distribute them. Thank you. And Srila Prabhupada, thank you. Thank you.
Ramesvara Prabhu ki jai. Prabhu, may I ask you to just stay there for a moment?
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for these extraordinary and extraordinarily unique stories. Few of us have had the advantage of your perspective in spending so much time with Srila Prabhupada and so much intimacy with Srila Prabhupada. And we thank you very much. Probably the highlight of all your years. How many years has it been? About 75?
I joined this movement. I'm the class of 1970.
You joined in 70.
I met devotees at the end of 69, and right. I moved into the temple that they had just opened in Portland in 70. Oh, I just have to tell you one last thing, very quick.
Very quick.
When we're having these conversations in Prabhupada's sleeper car, sometimes he would say, okay, finally enough. Okay, you can take rest now. and he would order me to take rest, like 10:30 or whatever. And then suddenly around midnight, I would just wake up wide awake. I just amazing that I just woke up and sat right up like springing up. So the first thing I do is look over at Prabhupada's bed. He never took rest. He's just sitting there cross-legged, waiting for me to wake up to continue the exact same conversation, the exact sentence where we left off.
That's
Those are the
wonderful.
kind of experiences
That's wonderful.
when you travel with Prabhupada, you have that.
Well, so
Hare Krishna.
we thank you for sharing all of these stories, and we also acknowledge that today is your birthday.
Wait. For the soul, there is neither birth
Nor death.
nor death.
Yes.
Nor having once been does the soul ever cease to be.
Yes. Well, I was gonna.
So you're talking about some bodily covering.
I was gonna continue by saying your age is now eternal. So we're good. We're good on that front.
Okay, good. As
Okay.
long as we're clear.
Okay. So we just have.
Hare Krishna.
So we have some more Prabhupada's mercy for you.
You just took this off Prabhupada?
We also have something else for you.
I have to bow down to Prabhupada when he gives you something. It's overwhelming.
We have something else to give him, but Ramesvara Prabhu said, I have to bow down to him because when he gives you something, you have to bow and reciprocate and acceptance.
We don't have adequate words to how to thank Prabhupada. None of us do. How do we thank him?
We can thank him by giving him our hearts and
Yes.
giving him our lives, following his teachings. So please accept as a token of our appreciation for everything
I
you've
would
done.
like to take this off and have each one of you wear it for a moment and pass it to the devotee next to you, please.
As you like. And start off with Raj Lakshmi here, who baked this cake for you.
Oh, really?
Look at this. Now he was talking so much about books, right? He's all about books, the BBT and everything. And look what she did here.
Books.
Books. This cake is Ekadashi friendly.
It's a BBT book.
BBT books.
It's a BBT. It says BBT.
This is Raj Lakshmi right here in front of you, Ramesvara Prabhu, right here.
May Krishna bless you to feel what Prabhupada feels.
Now, what we have to do, he just gave her his blessings. What we have to do, though, before it's honored, is take off the book decorations because those are not Ekadashi friendly. But then there's a sheet under it.
How do you take this?
You don't have to worry about it, Prabhu.
Oh, you're going to take it.
We'll take care of it. We just wanted to present it to you. And thank you. So 3 Hari Bols for Ramesvara Prabhu. Hari
We are in the shape and form that Prabhupada molded us to be.
We are in the shape and form that Prabhupada molded us to be.
All of us, especially those who were with Prabhupada, we were. That was our whole prayer. Please take me and use me in the way that you like the most, in the way that pleases you the most.
That's what consistently impresses me about all of you, how intensely and sincerely you all molded your lives to do those things. And it's very inspirational for the rest of us.
He was the molder. He was the artist. And we were the raw clay.
Yeah.
That just was presented to him.
Thank you for submitting to him. Thank you all for submitting to him.
Hare Krishna.
Adi Dev Prabhu, please get your moment with the garland, with the mercy, and then I would like to invite you up to lead us in a 5-minute kirtan.
Ah.
Would that be okay? And while he's making his way up, I just would like to acknowledge a lot of the people who are involved in putting these programs together every night. And tonight, at guest reception, we had Adi Dev Prabhu and Vamana Dev Prabhu, Jamuna Jaya and Ari. The garlands were made by Anuradha Priti, Chainika, Linda, Mira, Anandi Kishori. Raj Lakshmi helped with Prashadam, as did Jenna, Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, Bhima Pran, Amrit Krishna, Sannyasi Kripa, Dinamani. Overseeing the event tonight Sundari Saki, Nupur, Rupa, Jenna, Gaur Kumar, and we extend our thanks to all the devotees serving prasadam, all the devotees cleaning up. Those are all the people that we love the most, right? And then, of course, the sponsors for tonight's program. Jyotsna Kara, Adarshi Prabhu, and Narendra Vishi. Thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. Hari Bols for them 3 times.
Hari Bol. Prabhu, just before the kirtan, could you do one small thing? Ask every Prabhupada direct disciple, initiated disciple, just raise your hand so the rest of the room can see.
Yeah.
These are the most amazing souls. They were with Prabhupada. They saw him. They let him into their hearts, all of you. This is so amazing.
It is. It's truly amazing.
Hare Krishna.
And we thank you very, very much.
Why do I have to keep saying it?
No,
Okay.
you want to go?
Yes, thank you. I'm just going back to where Radhanath is.